Good morning, Year 4. Happy Friday. Well done. You have done it. You've got to the end of your home learning. Just one more day to go and one more day in our decimals unit as well. So let's have a look at what we're going to be doing today. So our WALT is to multiply and divide by 100 with decimals. So yesterday you were doing this with tens instead, multiplying and dividing by 10 with decimals. And you can see on your do now, that's what I would like you to do. So could you please complete these 6 equations on here, where you're going to be timesing and dividing by 10. And then if you feel like pushing yourself, we have a challenge at the bottom, a word problem for you to do there. So pause your video now. Off you go. Right, guys, let's grab a different color pen or pencil, and let's see how you got on with these. How was your memory from yesterday? So remember that when we are multiplying by 10, we move the place value over to the left by 1, and if we're dividing by 10, we move the place value over to the right by 1. So as I said, today we are going to be multiplying and dividing by 100 with decimals. So very similar to what we did yesterday, really. So our star words are the same as well. So repeat after me. Divisor, multiplier, decimal point, place value. Excellent stuff. So our first question here is 1.23 multiplied by 100. So using my counters here, I'm going to create that number. So what is the highest place value that 1.23 has? It's going to be our ones. So I'm going to put 1 in there. Then, of course, never forget our decimal point. How many tenths do we have? We've got 2. 1, 2. And how many hundredths? 3. 1, 2, 3. So 1.23. So when we're multiplying by 100, our first step is exactly the same as if we're multiplying by 10. Check the operation. Are we going to be multiplying or are we going to be dividing? Well, nice and clear, we are going to be multiplying by 100. So just make note of that. It's a really important first step. Step 2. If multiplying by 100, which we are, move the digits left 2 place values. So you can see that when we would multiplying by 10, we would move it left 1 place value. If we're doing it by 100, we move 2 place values. So I'm going to start with my largest place value over here, which is our ones. So I'm going to move that over not just once, but twice, because we're multiplying by 100. Then our 2 tenths, I'm going to move over from our ones to our tens. And then finally, the 3 hundredths are going to move across 1, 2 to the ones. Step 3, write a 0 as a placeholder in the columns if needed. Well, no placeholder is needed there. So we can see that 1.23 multiplied by 100 is 100. There are 2 tens, 3 ones, and we don't need to put the decimal in this case because there's nothing after the decimal point, so there's no need to do that. So 1.23 multiplied by 100 is 123. So let's do another example of this together. So 212 divided by 100. So once again, I'm going to use my place value chart to recreate the number 212. So my highest place value is the hundreds, 100, 200s. How many tens am I going to need? I'm going to need 1 10. And how many ones am I going to need? I'm going to need 2. And then there's no decimal so far, so I don't need to pop anything else on the place value chart. Once again, going through the same steps, and really important to remember this first one. Check the operation. Are we multiplying or are we dividing? Hopefully we can see we are dividing there. Step 2. If multiplying by 100, move digits left 2 place values. Now, is that relevant to us? No, it's not, because we're not multiplying by 100, we're dividing by 100, so we can forget about that step and move on to the next one. If dividing by 100, that's more like it, move the digits right 2 place value. So, this time I'll start with the smallest place value, which is our ones, and move them over once, twice into the hundredths. Then our tens, move over once, twice into the tenths. And finally, our hundreds, once, twice into the ones. And remembering, of course, that our place value always stays in the same position. It's the place value that we change, not the decimal. And then step 3, write a 0 as a placeholder in the columns if needed. Do we need to write a 0 anywhere as a placeholder? No, we don't need to do that. So 212 divided by 100 is 2.12. 2.12. Now, this time I'm not going to use the counters. And our next question is 756 divided by 100. So let's write this in our place value chart here. So 756. Do we need a decimal there? No, we do not. So the first step is check the operation, multiply or divide. So I want you to call out at your screens. Are we multiplying or are we dividing? Hopefully all calling out there that we are absolutely dividing by 100. Step 2. If multiplying by 100, move the digits left 2 place values. Now, does that apply for us? Do we need that step there? No, definitely not. Why not? Because we are not multiplying by 100. If dividing by 100, move the digits right 2 place values. Now, does that apply to us? Yes, it absolutely does. We are dividing by 100, so we need to move those digits right 2 place values. So the 6 ones are going to become 6 what? 1, 2, they're going to become 6 hundredths. Our 5 tens are going to become 1, 2, 5 tenths. Now we need to put that decimal place in there, that decimal point in there, sorry. And our 7 hundredths are going to become 7, what do you think? 7 ones. So 756 divided by 100 is 7.56. Now, does that look right? If we're dividing, the number should be getting smaller. Is our answer smaller than the part from the question? Absolutely it is. So, I'm going to leave this one up to you now. So I will write 0.56 in our place value chart there. What I would like you to do, please, go through the steps, and can you see what the answer to that would be? So pause the video now. Off you go. Right, guys, let's see how you got on there. So, of course, check the operation. Multiply or divide comes first. Is it multiply or is it divide? It's going to be multiply. If multiplying by 100, move the digits left 2 place values. Does this step apply to us? It definitely does. So we're going to move them left 2 place values. So the ones, if we move that left 2 place values, is going to become 0 hundredths. The 5 tenths, what are they going to become? They're going to become 5, 1, 2. They're going to become 5 tens. And what do you think the 6 hundredths are going to become? 6 what? 1, 2. They're going to become 6 ones, of course. And then finally, we need to write 0 as a placeholder in the columns if needed. Do we need a placeholder there? No, we could put it after the decimal point if needed. But really, if there's nothing after the decimal point, if there's no value after the decimal point, we can just forget about that completely. So 0.56 times 100, 0 hundreds, 5 tens, and 6 ones. So it would be 56. So hopefully you guys got that there. And again, if you put 56.0, that's fine. But remember, if there's nothing after the decimal point, you don't need to put that. Okay. So what I would like you guys to do now, you have got 9 equations in front of you, which all involve timesing by 100 or dividing by 100. Your steps to success are on the right. Pause the video now. Let's see how you get on with those. Okay? And if you still feel like you need to go through one more, then that's absolutely fine. You can do that with me now. The rest of you can pause if you feel like you can manage. So let's do this first one together. So 3.21 times 100. Are we multiplying or are we dividing? We are multiplying. If multiplying by 100, is that us? Are we multiplying by 100 on question 1? Yes, we are. So we need to move the digits left 2 place values. So if we have 3.21, which is what we've got up here, we need to move it left 2 place values. So our hundreds, our tens, our ones, our tenths, and our hundredths. So move it left 2 place values. So the 3 ones would become 1, 2, 3 hundredths. The 2 tens would become 1, 2, 2 tens, and the 2 hundredths would become 1, 2, 1 ones. So the answer for this one would be 321. Okay, so hopefully that it helps clear it up a bit more, just going through one more example like that. I would really suggest drawing the place value chart there to help you. So, pause the video now and crack on if you haven't already. And for those that have, we can have a look at the answers. Okay, so grab that different color pen or pencil. Can you mark through these here? By the way, that one there is 8, because I understand that's a little trickier to see. Now, we're going to do some word questions here. So just like we did yesterday, which can be a little bit trickier. So, our question is, Abigail has 753 marbles in her collection. She decides to share them between 100 friends. How many marbles does each friend get? So, which is the thing that we're going to be looking at? So we're going to be looking at her 753 marbles. Lucky thing, Abigail. So I'm going to write the number down here. And I would always suggest in this situation, really do take the time just to mark your place value, even your decimal point there, tens and hundreds. Okay. She decides now we need to do step 1. Check the operation. Are we multiplying or are we dividing in that case? She shares them between 100 friends. Now, if she's sharing them between 100 friends, does that mean we're multiplying or dividing? Well, that means that we're dividing, because dividing is another way of saying sharing. If multiplying by 100, move the digits to left 2 place values. Are we multiplying by 100? No, we're not. So we don't need this bit. If we're dividing by 100, are we dividing by 100? Yes, we are. Move the digits right 2 place values. So, if we're moving everything right 2 place values, the 3 ones is going to become 1, 2, 3 hundredths. The 5 tenths is going to become 1, 2, 5 tenths. Remember that decimal point now. We need it. We didn't need it for the 753, but we definitely need it now. And then the 7 hundredths, move it over 2 place values. 1, 2. Write a 0 as a placeholder if needed. Do we need it? No, we don't need it there. There's no need for a placeholder. So the answer will be each person gets 7.53. Don't know how she's going to split those marbles up like that. She'll have to crack them in two, I suppose. So 7.53 marbles. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now, have a look at this question. George eats 3.5 bananas a day. My word, a lot of potassium in his diet. How many bananas does he eat in 100 days? So pause the video now and have a think. Is that going to be a multiply or is it going to be a divide? And then see, if you feel really confident, you can shoot ahead and do the rest of the steps. If you still feel like you need a bit more support, that's absolutely fine. We can go through that together. But for the moment, multiply or divide. So, we know that he has 3.5 bananas in a day. Really important now to label our place value. So we've got our ones, our decimals, our tenths, our hundredths, and always worth labeling the tens and the hundreds in case we need those later on. How many bananas does he eat in 100 days? Well, if I know he eats 3.5 bananas in one day, is it going to be multiply or divide to find out how many he eats in 100 days? Of course, it's going to be multiplying. We're going to have to multiply by 100 to find out how many he eats in 100 days. Step 2. If multiplying by 100, move the digits left 2 places. Are we multiplying by 100? Yes, we are. So what I'd like you to do again is just pause the video and can you do just this next step, please? If you're multiplying by 100, move the digits left 2 place values. So give that a go now and come back once you've done that. Okay. So we're moving the digits left 2 place values because we're multiplying. I'm going to make sure my decimal's in there because that needs to stay in the same place. So let's start with the ones. 1, 2. So that's going to become 3 hundredths. Now our 5 tenths. We need to move that across as well. We need to move that left. So that's going to go there. Then write 0 as a placeholder in the columns if needed. So hopefully before we move on from there, people are shouting at their screens saying that I have made a mistake. What error have I done? I have moved the tenths over. I've moved the 5 over 1 place. How many place values should I have moved it over? Of course I should have done it twice. Silly Mr. Parker. So that becomes 5 tens rather than 5 ones. And so I've got 3 hundredths, 5 tens. Do I need to write a 0 as a placeholder in the columns, in any of the columns? Yes, I do, because at the moment there's nothing in our ones column. We have 3 hundredths, 5 tens, and there's nothing there, so I need to write 0 as a placeholder here. So, if George eats 3.5 bananas a day, every 100 days he eats 350. My, oh my. Right, your next job, folks. In front of you, you have 4-word problems. Can you see if you can figure those out? Firstly, work out if they're multiply or divide, and follow the steps over there. Off you go. Right, let's see how you guys got on. Grab that different color pen or pencil. And here are your answers. Pause the video if you need just to mark it. So, for your reasoning and your challenge, your reasoning, firstly, can you explain, is this statement true or false? 1.67 times 100 equals 167. Then, Miss Jones has divided a number by 100. Her new answer is 1.87. What was her original number? And then finally, what two numbers multiplied together equals 754? Thinking about what our WALT is of dividing and multiplying by hundreds with decimals. Okay, so pause the video now. Give the reasoning and the challenge a go. So let's see, guys, how you have gotten on. Really interested to see. So this statement is true. 1.67 times 100 is 167 because the place value has been moved twice to the left, just like it should have been. Miss Jones has a number. Miss Jones has 187. Which when you divide it by 100 would be 1.87. So the original number was 187. And then the missing values here, 7.54 times 100 is 754. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That is all the maths that you need to be doing for your home learning. Really looking forward to seeing you guys on Monday, to doing some more maths work with you and just to see all your faces. So really well done on all the incredible hard work. I know myself, Miss Jones and Miss Boots are so proud of all the work that you've put in. Really well done and look forward to seeing you on Monday. Have a fabulous weekend. Bye-bye.